Welcome, welcome, Don Lemon.
Hi, Molly Jong-Fast. I'm on
Hi.
Fast Politics
I'm
finally.
so happy to have you, and I love to be on Lemon Live, two of my favorite. So let's talk about this letter. Donald Trump has a war powers. It's a war powers. I think it's a sort of war powers act, some kind of, and basically it's the same as everything this administration has said over the last 2 days,
Mhm,
which is Israel made us, Saudis wanted it, we had to
mhm.
do it to distract from the Epstein files. Discuss.
Well, basically, he's saying now he wants to alert Congress of airstrikes now, but after he is already right, am I correct? After he already
Yes.
leveled attacks against, Iran,
And a girls'
um,
school. I
and a
saw
girls'
a
school
photo of
with
them like digging up mass graves for these children
yeah,
in
and as
Iran.
we are recording this, 6 US servicemen have already died, and we are in the
Yeah.
very early days. That girls' school happened, I believe, within the opening hours,
Yeah.
of this, attack on Iran. Yeah, of course, it's a distraction from the Epstein files, but I think it goes beyond that, and as, I've been discussing on my show with folks, yeah, everyone believes that, the Epstein files were heating up. They were not I mean, as if it could get any hotter, but they were not
Right.
going out of the headlines no matter what they tried to do, including, bringing Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton in for some bogus testimony. And if you
Right.
watch that, it was a farce. But also just a distraction from other things that's happening in this country, which I believe were distractions from the Epstein files, and that went bad, i.e.,
Right.
what happened in Minnesota. Remember what happened in Minnesota was all started because this guy, Nick Shirley, went there and said he was
Right.
uncovering fraud. They sent people to Minnesota, and then people ended up dying. And so
Right.
they can't get out of their own ways. They create these problems because they're trying to deflect, and then they come up with solutions, and those solutions become even bigger problems for them. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where we are right now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, it's this sort of law of unintended consequences, and we keep
Right.
seeing that again and again. And I think this is a pretty interesting moment because yesterday we had this incredible testimony from Bill and Hillary, 4.5 hours each. It was so interesting to me. One of the things that I was really impressed with in her testimony, and this is something we've seen again and again with her, is that she just is able to be enraged in a way that as women, for women tends to be that rage is not, we get in a lot of trouble when we're angry. We're not sort of,
That's
the
it.
culture sort of says in a million different ways you're not supposed to be angry. And yet she is able to, the rage she has is just sort of effervescent and amazing. And listening to her is
Well,
very inspiring in my mind.
I relate to that because you're not supposed to be the angry black man either, right? Because people interpret your ire differently than others. But I would, you can call it rage. I call it righteous indignation,
Yeah.
and no one is righteously indignant better than Hillary Clinton, and she has every right, as I said. That's why I said righteous, to be indignant about it because they're questioning her about Pizzagate, and she doesn't even know Jeffrey Epstein and her relationship with Howard Lutnick. And it's like, wait a minute, Howard Lutnick is in the Trump administration. And she
Yes.
tried to explain to them at the time, I was a senator in New York. Howard Lutnick was a head of Cantor Fitzgerald or a leading voice at a leading person
Yeah.
at Cantor Fitzgerald and lost many employees and friends, including his brother.
Yeah.
And so if I
Yeah.
have communications with him, it is about that. It's not about the Epstein files. And it's just outrageous when you look at the firepower, so to speak, meaning brain power and intelligence of a Hillary Clinton versus Lauren Boebert and
Yeah, it's
Nancy Mace. There's
unbelievable.
no comparison. And look, I think them releasing this video, well, them doing it is a cell phone, but this video is even more of a cell phone because they look really bad.
Yeah,
She
I
comes
think
off
that's
very well.
she does. She comes off really well, and I think that's a really good point about how, first of all, the fact that Letnick is being questioned about, but not being interviewed when he's in
Hmm.
those files again and again and again, and he signed an LLC, and CBS reported that they did business together, right? That Lutnick and Jeffrey Epstein had some kind of
Right.
business together. And there are photos of Lutnick and Epstein that the Justice Department took down from the website. Like, if that isn't suspicious, I don't know what is. I want to get
And they
back to
had
the war.
business together, Molly, though, real quick. They had business together after Jeffrey Epstein lied about, he said,
Right.
about he said, I cut my relationship with him after I visited his house and it was very creepy. And then years later, they strike up a business deal together and he ends up going to Epstein Island, I believe, right on the
Yeah.
plane with
Yeah.
his family. It's just crazy.
And then also you have Lutnick with the emails with the nanny, right? That the nanny, which is like, I mean, if a Democrat did this, people would be losing their minds. I want to get back to the CBS War Powers Resolution notification
Hmm.
that Donald Trump has done. By the way, talk about Democrats getting caught on the back foot. Last week, we saw Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey tried to do a War Powers Act. Hakeem was like, wait till this week. They should have done it last week.
They should have done it last week. And yeah, always. And there are real concerns about the Democratic leadership. As you point out so accurately, they always seem to be on their back foot. And we need a little bit more a
Yeah.
proactive mindset and nature with the Democrats. And look, Molly, I think you know this. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican either. I'm an
Right.
independent. But I feel like the Democrats are the only party right now.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Democratic Party is the only party right now fighting for democracy. Not always doing such a great job at it, but
Right.
anybody who's fighting for democracy and who believes in the Constitution and our Bill of Rights, then I'm on that side.
Yeah.
So they could be a bit more proactive and a bit more
Yeah.
have a bit more righteous indignation.
Yeah. I think that's right. And I think Ro Khanna is a really good example of just being on it, right? He's a
Hmm.
Democrat and he just sort of very and we've seen this with Robert Garcia too, who's the ranking member of oversight, just relentless. And in fact, but I want to get back to the war powers resolution for a minute because I
Yep.
have now have it. The CBS News as CBS News, by the way, you'll remember CBS News lost 25% of its audience because it is now part of the Barry Weiss empire, has obtained the war powers resolution notification President Trump sent to Congress today on February 28th. That's like 4 days into the strikes. Okay. It
Hmm.
outlines the missile air defense targets that were hit, acknowledges it's not clear how long operations may last.
Yeah, he said, despite my administration's repeated efforts to achieve a diplomatic solution in Iran's malign behavior, the threat to the United States and its allies and partners became untenable. That's what he said. But this is this is sort of retrofitting what was supposed to have happened, into it 4 days later. So perhaps if the Democrats had been more proactive, as you said, but yeah, look, people are still dying. I think, look, it's an effort, but it's not a good faith effort. It's not a good
No.
faith effort at this point. A good faith effort would have been to go to Congress, who really should have the war powers, the powers of the purse. There's a
Right.
reason that the Congress is in the first amendment of the Constitution, and in the Constitution, the beginning starts with the Congress. The Congress is really sort of the thread that runs through the entire Constitution to hold it together. But Donald Trump just ignores them.
Yeah. And it's interesting to listen to Marco. Yesterday, Marco gave a little presser on the Hill and he said, first of all, he said Israel told us to get involved in this, which, by the way, if you said that, Jonathan Greenblatt would say you were an anti-Semite. So, but Marco said it because it's factually correct, and I was sort of blown away by that. But then he also said, Trump doesn't need war power. He doesn't need to come to Congress. He can do whatever he wants. And I was reminded that Marco Rubio was, until very recently, a senator.
Yeah. And he's part of the legislative branch, and they have completely given their power, just handed their power over to the executive branch. They've allowed the executive branch to usurp their power and their job. So what what need is there for a senator or a congressman if Donald Trump can do whatever he wants? And basically, Molly, that's what he said to them at the State of the Union. He looked right at the Supreme Court and said, "I don't need you. There are other ways to get what I want to get as it relates to tariffs. So, you know, f you."
Yeah.
And then with Mike Johnson standing behind him, he said that he didn't need to go to the Congress to do any of it as well. And Mike Johnson stood up and applauded.
Right.
It's
And
like,
I
well,
know.
then Mike Johnson, then why are you there? It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. The whole thing about Israel is that none of what Marco Rubio said yesterday made sense, as none of what Pete Hegseth said made sense. There's a regime change, but it wasn't intended. But there is a
Right.
regime change, and he sounded like he was trying to be like a rapper. I was like, who are you? Not I don't know, say 50 Cent. What's his name?
You're looking
Anyway,
at the wrong person.
the-
But yes, I mean, there was
but
there was quite
like
a
if I
lot of
can
back
make
and
my
yeah,
point, if I can
please.
make my point, sorry, Molly, if I can make my
No.
point, and they said, what someone I had on yesterday made a very good point saying because he said they had to do it because Israel was going to strike them and they didn't want the fallout from it. Then he's painting Israel as the preeminent threat in this
Right.
scenario, and
Yeah.
so someone pointed out, when does one country get to dictate another country's foreign policy? And it sounds like Israel is dictating America's foreign policy and how
Well,
America reacts to in this situation. It's really something else.
and the Washington Post is reporting that MBS had been lobbying for this. So that would mean
Mm.
that you have both the Saudis and the Israelis telling Donald Trump what to do. But I also want to point out another thing, which I think is important, which is the people who were tasked with these negotiations were Jared Kushner, who has a ton of financial interests in the Gulf and has no training
Mhm.
and has never done this before, and Steve Witkoff, who is a friend of Donald Trump's. I mean, like, there are reasons that people have training to do things like this. I mean, discuss.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember in the beginning during the first administration when Jared Kushner was put in charge of Middle East peace?
Right.
And look at where we are now. There's a reason, quite honestly, that someone like Marco Rubio has experience in foreign policy. He was a senator, and now he's a secretary of state, which gives him even more credibility. He's even in a bigger part, I believe, it's sort of that this is a hybrid role, I believe, between the executive and the legislative branch. And Marco Rubio does not understand, nor does he respect that, or appears to understand or respect that at this moment. Yes, there are reasons that we have generals, even though Donald Trump says he knows more than the generals. There is a
Mhm.
reason that people go to war, become career military people, so that they can become 2, 3, 4-star generals or more, and they have the experience that a Donald Trump doesn't have, or even quite frankly, even a Marco Rubio doesn't have. But yes, there are people who are steeped in foreign policy, in diplomacy, and none of this seems to be diplomatic. None of their excuses are making any sense. The more they explain, the more confused the American people, and I believe our allies and our nemesis around the world, I believe that they become even more confused. And you know the old saying, Molly, if you're explaining, which they're doing a lot of, you're
Yes, a
losing.
lot. Yes, and I actually think about that a lot. Now, I think this is all exactly right. Now, we have just a few minutes left, and I want to devote it to the Christie Nome testimony because I want to talk about this incredible testimony. And she's being interviewed by Kennedy, and it is just you'll remember super woke leftist Senator Kennedy from the great state of Louisiana, who is neither woke nor a leftist. He basically asks her why she has spent so much money.
Well, it says here that he confronts her on the $200 million,
Yeah.
$220 million
Yeah.
spent on TV ads.
Let me read it. Here we go. Okay, so who asked Nome to square her concern for government spending waste with the move to spend $220 million on TV ads that feature Nome prominently. Nome says she went through the legal process for the ads and that Trump knew she was making them. Nome, the ads were effective. Kennedy, they were effective for your name recognition. It puts the president in a terribly awkward spot. One of the people you picked, Safe America Media, was formed 11 days before you pick them, and the head is married to your former spokesperson.
Mm.
How bad must it be? How corrupt must they be for John Kennedy, Louisiana's foghorn leghorn, to do this?
I don't say must they be. I think we know. I think we know that they be. We can see it. I mean, and honestly, it all played out to us, and it's still playing out from the horrible videos that we're seeing of people being dragged and
Mhm.
pulled out of their homes, and the testimony that's happening now with people being pulled out of the shower in their underwear and American citizens, and they have the wrong people. And her answer to that is, when asked, should American citizens be treated this way or pulled out of their home? She goes, in every law enforcement operation or activity, there are basically saying that there are casualties, not being able to admit that. We saw her standing in front of, a jail cell or a prison cell full of people with shaved heads and in uniform or in prison garb.
Right.
Some of them were American citizens. Some of them were not violent people. They made them out to be. We've seen her on the boats, on her photo shoots, in makeup, full hair and makeup, and that's why they call her Ice Barbie. We've
Yeah.
seen all of the things. We've seen her horrific behavior when she called Alex Preddy a domestic terrorist, and then in this hearing that you and I are discussing now, just lied about it to Senator Richard Blumenthal and saying,
Yeah.
basic, or either it was Amy Klobuchar saying, I didn't do that, when all you have to do is run the soundbite back. Now, I have a bit of experience lately with
Yes.
federal agents, and I will tell you, not all of them are created the same.
Yeah.
The people who are out there snatching people up off the streets with 47 days of experience are not the career professionals who I believe are embarrassed by this administration, and they don't want to be associated with those ICE goons that should not be in any position of power.
Yeah, I think
So
it's
we
really
know it's bad. We see
yeah.
it. The evidence is there in front of our eyes.
Yeah. You wanna talk a little more about where you are in your situation with this?
Well, everyone, look, I'll talk to you about what's out there. I mean, look, it's still ongoing. This administration is, I don't think that they're going to stop. They're going to try everything that they can, as they say, every trick in the book, because that's all they have is tricks, right? There have been, motions filed and whatever, but so we're just in the middle of the legal process right now. And so it's just playing out. And that's all I really know. I have good representation. I rely on my representation and my attorneys to do whatever they need to do legally. And then I go about my life and I live my life and I go on, fast politics and I do my show. And I just continue to be, hopefully, a good steward of the First Amendment and freedom of the press. This is much bigger than me, Molly, as you know. This has ramifications for all of us and anyone who operates under the First Amendment. And if an administration can decide what stories that we should be able to cover as journalists, then we've lost the plot.
Yeah.
And they are trying to do that. You see what they've done with the White House media, with the White House core. You see what they've done at the Pentagon, where
Yeah.
they are getting people to sign statements or sign agreements that they have to show them something, some things that they want to produce or that they want to publish. It's outrageous.
Mhm.
And it is un-American. It is against the Constitution. It's against the Bill of Rights. It's unpatriotic. And so that's where I am right now. I am standing for the First Amendment, for freedom of the press, and for all journalists, all not only in America, but all over the world.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Don Lemon.
Thank you, Molly Jong-Fast.